What if I told you that in 1450, European students traveled to Africa, not to colonize, not to conquer, but to sit at the feet of African professors and beg for knowledge? Picture this. The year is 1450. The place is Timbuktu, Mali. The sun rises over the Sankore Mosque, casting golden light through arched windows onto a classroom packed with students. 25,000 students from 3 continents, Africa, Europe, Asia, all crammed into this city of learning. At the front of the room stands a black professor. His name is lost to history, erased deliberately, but his knowledge was undeniable. He's teaching advanced algebra, astronomical calculations, Islamic philosophy, and in the third row, scratching notes onto parchment with trembling hands, sit a dozen European students. They've traveled for months across the Mediterranean and through the Sahara Desert to get here. Why? Because the universities back home in Europe can't teach what they need to know. The knowledge doesn't exist there yet. You can hear the scratch of pens on parchment, the rustle of robes, the call to prayer echoing from the minaret. You can smell the ink and aged leather of manuscripts, the morning incense, the dust from the desert that coats everything. And you can feel the electric tension in the room as these European students struggle to keep up their basic Latin education, worthless here, where the lingua franca is Arabic and the mathematical concepts are 300 years ahead of anything Oxford or Cambridge will teach. The African professor gestures to complex equations written in Arabic script on the wall. He speaks with the confidence of a man who knows he stands at the center of the intellectual world, because that's exactly where he is. Timbuktu, the Harvard of the medieval world, the MIT of the 1400s, the intellectual capital that made Europe look like a backwater. And then something happens that will echo through 5 centuries. Something that will reshape history and justify the enslavement of millions. The torches appear on the horizon. The rebellion that toppled empires was buried in whispers of the wind. But today, their voices roar back to life. For 500 years, they've told you Africa had no history, no civilization, no contribution to the world. They lied, and I have the manuscripts to prove it. 700,000 manuscripts. Well, what's left of them anyway? Because they burned most of them, on purpose, systematically. And I'm going to show you exactly who did it, why they did it, and how that theft connects directly to the wealth gap destroying your family right now today in 2125. After this video, you'll understand why they destroyed our libraries, why they burned our universities, why they erased our professors from every history book. Because if you knew the truth, if you knew your ancestors were teaching their ancestors the entire justification for slavery, colonization and oppression collapses like a house of cards in a hurricane. This isn't ancient history. This is your history. Your great-great-great-great-great-grandparents came from a civilization that was more advanced than Europe. They stole that knowledge. Then they told you that you had nothing. They said Africa was the dark continent. They said Africans had no written language. They said you descended from savages who needed to be civilized. Every single word was a calculated lie, designed to justify the greatest theft in human history. Your ancestors weren't slaves who needed saving. They were professors. They were scholars. They were innovators. And you carry that DNA. That brilliance flows in your blood right now as you watch this video. By the end of this video, you'll know how African universities were teaching advanced mathematics 300 years before European universities existed. You'll know the names of specific African professors who taught European scholars. You'll know how Morocco and Europe systematically destroyed 700,000 manuscripts to hide the truth. And you'll know why this theft connects directly to the wealth gap you experience today. The median white household has $284,000 in wealth. The median black household has $44,000. That's not because black people don't work hard. That's because they stole $100 trillion from us. and I can prove it. And you'll never see education the same way again. You'll never accept their lies about black intellectual inferiority. You'll never stay silent when someone says Africans contributed nothing to world civilization, because you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Let me take you back to where this story really begins, not in 1450. Earlier, much earlier, to the year 1100 when the Sankore Mosque was first built in Timbuktu, Mali. For 2 centuries it functioned as a mosque, a place of Islamic worship. But then, something extraordinary happened. The year is 1324. A man named Mansa Musa, the king of Mali, embarks on a pilgrimage to Mecca. You might have heard of this pilgrimage because Mansa Musa was the richest man in human history. Not one of the richest, the richest. His wealth was literally incalculable. When he passed through Cairo, he gave away so much gold that he crashed the Egyptian economy for a decade. Gold became worthless because this one African king had flooded the market. But here's what they don't tell you in history class. Mansa Musa wasn't just rich, he was brilliant, and he understood something profound. Wealth without knowledge is temporary. Power without education is fragile. So when he returned from Mecca in 1327, he brought with him architects and scholars. And he transformed Sankore from a mosque into something unprecedented in sub-Saharan Africa, a full university. By the late 1300s, Sankore University had become the intellectual center of the Islamic world. Not just Africa, the entire Islamic world, which at that time stretched from Spain to Indonesia. The library at Sankore held between 400,000 and 700,000 manuscripts. Let me put that in perspective for you. The Library of Alexandria, the most famous library in ancient history, held about 500,000 scrolls at its peak. Sankore matched it. In the middle of the Sahara Desert, in Black Africa, in a city that Europeans would later claim was just a myth. The city of Timbuktu had a population of 100,000 people. 25,000 of them were students. Let that sink in. 1 out of every 4 people in the city was a student. The entire city was essentially a university town. And these weren't just local students. They came from across Africa, from the Middle East, from North Africa, and yes, from Europe. The academic standards at Sankore were brutal. Before you could even be accepted, you had to memorize the entire Quran, all 6,236 verses. In Arabic, you had to be fluent in Arabic because that was the language of instruction, and you had to demonstrate proficiency in multiple fields of study: mathematics, astronomy, law, medicine, theology, philosophy. You weren't allowed to specialize until you'd proven yourself in all of them. Compare that to Europe at the same time. Oxford University was founded in 1096, technically before Sankore became a full university. But in 1300, Oxford had fewer than 1,500 students. And what were they studying? Basic Latin grammar, elementary logic, introductory theology. Meanwhile, at Sankore, students were working on advanced algebraic equations that wouldn't appear in European textbooks for another 200 years. Pause and reflect on this. Let it really settle into your consciousness. While Sankore had 25,000 students studying advanced mathematics, in 1300 Oxford University had fewer than 1,500 students and was still teaching basic Latin grammar. Oxford, the university that would later claim to be one of the oldest and most prestigious in the world. In 1300, it was a joke compared to Sankore. Don't take my word for it. Take the word of Félix Dubois, a French author who studied Timbuktu's history. He wrote, and I'm reading his exact words, "Here the scholars of Timbuktu yielded in nothing to the saints in their sojourns in the foreign universities of Fez, Tunis, and Cairo. They astounded the most learned men of Islam by their erudition. That these Negroes were on a level with the Arabian savants is proved by the fact that they were installed as professors in Morocco and Egypt. In contrast to this, we find that Arabs were not always equal to the requirements of Sankore. Read that last sentence again in your mind. Arabs were not always equal to the requirements of Sankore. A French scholar writing in the 1800s admitted that even Arab scholars, who were renowned across the medieval world, sometimes couldn't meet Sankore's standards. And yet, you never learned this in school. Your children aren't learning this in school right now. Why? Because if you knew this, how could they justify slavery? How could they claim Africans needed to be civilized? How could they argue that black people were intellectually inferior? They couldn't. So they erased it. They burned the evidence. They killed the witnesses. They rewrote the textbooks. And for 500 years they got away with it. But not anymore. Because we have the receipts. 350,000 manuscripts survived, hidden by African families in their homes, in caves in the desert for centuries, protected through invasions and wars and colonization. And those manuscripts tell a story that shatters every lie you were taught. Let me introduce you to a man. His name is Ahmad Baba as Sudan. If you've never heard that name before, that's by design. Because Ahmad Baba was one of the most brilliant scholars in human history, and they erased him. His full name was Abu al-Abbas Ahmad ibn Umar ibn Muhammad Aqit al-Takruri al-Masufi al-Timbuktu. He was born on October 26, 1956 in Arawan, a town near Timbuktu. His father was Ahmad bin al-Hajj, Ahmad bin Umar bin Muhammad, Aqit himself, a renowned teacher. Education was the family business. Brilliance was the family legacy. As a child, Ahmad Baba moved to Timbuktu to study with his father and other great teachers like Muhammad Abu Bakr. He was a prodigy. By his 20s, he'd mastered Islamic law, medicine, philosophy, astronomy, and mathematics. By his 30s, he was teaching. And by his 40s, he was the most respected scholar in West Africa. Ahmad Baba became the last headmaster of Sankore University. Think about what that title meant. Headmaster of a university with 25,000 students, a library of 400,000 to 700,000 books, academic standards that surpassed Cairo, Fez, and Tunis. He wasn't just smart. He was responsible for maintaining and advancing the intellectual tradition of an entire civilization. He wrote more than 60 books, 60, on law, on medicine, on philosophy, on astronomy, on mathematics, each one a masterpiece of scholarship. And he owned a personal library of 1,600 books. 1,600 in the 1500s. And here's the kicker. That was considered a small library for a Timbuktu scholar. Ahmad Baba himself said his library was the smallest among his peers. Let me make sure you understand what that means. In the 1500s, European kings owned maybe 50 books. Monasteries might have 100. Oxford University's entire library had maybe 3,000 books for the whole institution. And here's Ahmad Baba in Timbuktu with 1,600 books in his personal collection, the smallest collection among the scholars. Think about what that tells you about the wealth, the literacy, the intellectual culture of Timbuktu. Ahmad Baba was more than a teacher. He was a jurist, an imam, a legal scholar whose opinions on Islamic law were sought from across the Muslim world. When judges in Morocco or Egypt had difficult cases, they wrote to Ahmad Baba in Timbuktu and waited for his ruling. His word was law from Senegal to Saudi Arabia. He wasn't teaching children. He was teaching other professors. He was training the scholars who would go on to lead universities in Morocco and Egypt. Students came from 3 continents to study with him personally. And when he spoke, the intellectual world listened. This is the man they erased from your history books. This is the legacy they stole from you. But before I tell you what happened to Ahmad Baba, you need to understand what was happening in the world around him. Because Timbuktu's wealth was becoming a problem. Not for Timbuktu, for everyone else. The city sat at the crossroads of the trans-Saharan trade routes. Gold from West Africa, salt from the Sahara, manuscripts, and knowledge from Timbuktu itself. The city was rich beyond imagination, and that made it a target. In 1591, the Sultan of Morocco, Ahmad al-Mansur, decided he wanted that wealth. He wanted the gold mines, he wanted control of the trade routes, and he wanted the prestige that came with conquering the legendary Timbuktu. So he sent an army. Not just any army. An army equipped with European firearms, arquebuses, muskets, cannons, technology that the Songhai Empire, which controlled Timbuktu, didn't have. The Moroccan army crossed the Sahara Desert. It took them months. Many died of thirst and heat. But those who survived arrived in Timbuktu in 1591 with overwhelming firepower. The Songhai warriors were brave. They were skilled. They had superior numbers. But they had swords and spears. The Moroccans had guns. It wasn't a fair fight. It was a slaughter. The Moroccans conquered Timbuktu. But they didn't just come for gold. They came for books. Because they understood what the Europeans were only beginning to figure out. Knowledge is power. The manuscripts of Timbuktu contained advanced mathematics, astronomical tables, medical treatments, legal theories, 5 centuries of accumulated wisdom. Whoever controlled those manuscripts controlled the intellectual future of the Islamic world, so they started looting the libraries. They loaded manuscripts onto camels and sent them back to Morocco. Thousands upon thousands of books. Priceless, irreplaceable works of scholarship. Gone. Stolen. And what they couldn't carry, they burned. Because if Morocco couldn't have it, no one would. But that wasn't enough. The Moroccan Sultan knew that books could be rewritten. Knowledge could be preserved in memory. As long as the scholars lived, Timbuktu's intellectual tradition could survive. So he did something calculated and cruel. He arrested the scholars. In 1593, 2 years after the invasion, Moroccan soldiers came for Ahmad Baba. They came to his home. They seized his library of 1,600 books. Every single one. 500 years of family scholarship. Books his great-grandfather had written. Books he'd spent a lifetime collecting. Manuscripts worth more than most European kingdoms. Gone in an afternoon, and then they chained him. This man who had taught sultans. This scholar whose legal opinions were revered across continents. They put him in chains like a common criminal. They chained his family too. His wife, his children. And they marched them across the Sahara Desert to Morocco. A journey that killed many who attempted it. A journey designed to break the spirit of the greatest scholar in West Africa. Think about what that must have felt like. You're Ahmad Baba. You've spent your entire life in the pursuit of knowledge. You own 1,600 books. You've written 60 more. You're the headmaster of the greatest university in the world. Students from 3 continents come to learn from you. And then soldiers kick down your door. They burn your library. They chain your hands. They force you to walk across 1,000 miles of desert. Away from your home. Away from your students. Away from everything you've built. For 15 years, Ahmad Baba was imprisoned in Marrakesh, Morocco. 15 years. From 1593 to 1608. He was 62 years old when he finally returned home. An old man, broken in body but not in spirit. Because here's what the Moroccan Sultan didn't expect. The scholars of Morocco heard that Ahmad Baba was in the city, and they begged him to teach. At first, Ahmad Baba refused. He was a prisoner. His library had been destroyed. His life's work was ashes. Why should he teach his captors? But the Moroccan scholars persisted. They knew who he was. They knew what he represented. And eventually, worn down by their pleading, or perhaps recognizing that teaching was his purpose, no matter the circumstances, Ahmad Baba agreed. He began teaching at the Sheriff's Mosque in Marrakesh, and something extraordinary happened. The students came in droves, so many that the mosque couldn't hold them all. They spilled into the courtyard, into the street. Scholars who had studied at the finest institutions in the Islamic world came to learn from this chained African professor. When judges had difficult cases, they brought them to Ahmad Baba. When scholars had complex questions, they submitted them to Ahmad Baba, and his word became final. In the capital of the empire that had conquered him in chains, Ahmad Baba was still the most respected intellectual authority. Think about what that means. They conquered his city. They burned his library. They chained his body. And still, they couldn't conquer his mind. They couldn't burn his knowledge. They couldn't chain his brilliance. And the scholars of Morocco, the conquerors, had to admit that this African prisoner knew more than all of them combined. In 1608, after 15 years of captivity, Ahmad Baba was finally allowed to return to Timbuktu. Before he left Morocco, he made a vow. He said, "May God never bring me back to this meeting or make me return to this country." He meant it. He never wanted to see Morocco again. The city that had destroyed his life's work. The empire that had stolen his library and his freedom. He returned to a Timbuktu that had been devastated. The libraries were empty. The scholars were dead or scattered. The university was a shadow of its former glory. But Ahmad Baba did what scholars do. He started rebuilding. He started teaching again. He started writing. Even though his library was gone, the knowledge was still in his mind. And he poured it out into new manuscripts, new students, a new generation. Ahmad Baba died in 1627 in Timbuktu. He was 71 years old. He'd survived an invasion, 15 years of imprisonment, the destruction of everything he'd built, and he'd kept teaching until the end. Today, the Ahmed Baba Institute of Higher Learning and Islamic Research in Timbuktu is named after him. It houses 30,000 manuscripts, a fraction of what once existed, but a testament to the man who refused to let the knowledge die. Think about this for a moment. Ahmad Baba wrote more books than most European scholars of his era. He had a bigger personal library than most European universities. His legal opinions shaped Islamic law across 3 continents. Students traveled for months to study with him. Even his enemies recognized his brilliance. And yet, you never heard his name. Not in school, not in college, not anywhere. Why? Because if you knew about Ahmad Baba, you'd ask questions. Uncomfortable questions. Like, why did they tell us Africans had no written tradition when Ahmad Baba alone wrote 60 books? Why did they tell us Africans contributed nothing to world civilization when Ahmad Baba was teaching the teachers of Morocco and Egypt? Why did they tell us we needed to be civilized when our ancestors were running universities that European scholars couldn't qualify for? The erasure of Ahmad Baba wasn't an accident. It was policy. Deliberate, systematic, necessary. Because the existence of men like Ahmad Baba destroys the justification for everything that came after. The slave trade, colonialism, segregation. All of it rests on the lie that Africans were intellectually inferior, that you needed Europeans to bring you civilization. But Ahmad Baba proves that lie. His existence, his brilliance, his library, his 60 books, his 1,500 students, all of it screams the truth. Your ancestors were professors. They were scholars. They were the teachers of the world. And Ahmad Baba wasn't alone. He was one among many. Let me introduce you to some of the others. The professors whose names were erased but whose legacy refuses to die. Mohammed Bagayogo as Sudan al-Wangari al-Timbuktu. Even his name tells you a story, as Sudan means from Sudan, the Arabic term for the land of black people. Al-Wangari indicates his ethnic origin. Al-Timbuktu tells you where he made his home and his legacy. This man was one of the greatest mathematicians of the medieval world. Mohammed Bagayogo specialized in mathematics, astronomy, and Islamic law. He earned a doctorate from Al-Azhar University in Cairo. Let me repeat that. Al-Azhar University, founded in 970 AD, is one of the oldest and most prestigious universities in the world. It's still operating today. It was the Harvard of the Islamic world. And they gave Mohammed Bagayogo an honorary doctorate. A black African scholar from Timbuktu received the highest academic honor from the most respected university in the Islamic world. Why? Because his work was revolutionary. He developed applications of algebra that wouldn't appear in European mathematics for 200 years. He built astronomical instruments to track the movements of planets and stars. He wrote treatises on medicine, on philosophy, on law, and students came from across the world to learn from him, from Cairo, from Fez, from Tunis, and yes, from Europe. Here's what kills me. Students who studied under Bagayogo returned to Cairo, to Fez, to Tunis, and yes, to Europe, carrying his mathematical methods in their notebooks. Techniques that wouldn't appear in European textbooks for another 2 centuries just magically showed up. Algebraic applications, geometric proofs, astronomical calculations. Where did they come from? The textbooks don't say. The historians don't tell you. But the manuscripts tell the truth. They came from Timbuktu, from black African professors like Mohammed Bagayogo. And what happened to Mohammed Bagayogo's work? His manuscripts were burned in the 1591 Moroccan invasion. His name was erased from the historical record. His mathematical innovations were stolen and attributed to European and Arab scholars. And you never heard of him. Until now. Let me tell you about Mahmud Kati. Born in 1468, died in 1593, the same year Ahmad Baba was taken prisoner. Mahmud Kati was a historian. He wrote the Tariq al-Fatash, which translates to Chronicle of the Seeker. It's one of the most important historical documents about West Africa. It covers the history of the Songhai Empire, the rise of Timbuktu, the development of its scholarly tradition. Without Mahmud Kati's work, we wouldn't know half of what we know about medieval West Africa. He documented names, dates, events, rulers, wars, treaties, everything. He was the Herodotus of West Africa. And like the Greek historians you learned about in school, he preserved the history of his people for future generations. Except unlike Herodotus, whose name every high school student knows, you've never heard of Mahmud Kati. Why? Because they didn't teach you. They taught you that Africans had no written history, that everything we know about Africa comes from European explorers and Arab travelers, that Africans didn't record their own stories. Mahmud Kati's entire life's work proves that's a lie. But they didn't tell you about him. So the lie survived. Abd al-Rahman al-Sadi, born in 1596, wrote the Tariq al-Sudan, Chronicle of the Sudan. He was born just as the Moroccan invasion was destroying Timbuktu's golden age. He grew up in the ruins, and he dedicated his life to writing down what had been lost. He interviewed elders who remembered the glory days. He collected surviving manuscripts. He documented the invasion, the destruction, the theft. His work is why we know what happened, why we know what was stolen, and yet you never heard his name either. Ahmed al-Masufi, an expert in astronomy. He created star charts and planetary maps. Muhammad al-Kabiri, a medical doctor who wrote about disease treatment and surgical procedures. Ali ibn Ziyad al-Quti, a legal scholar whose fatwas, religious legal opinions, influenced Islamic law across the region. Ahmad ibn Omar ibn Muhammad Aqid, father of Ahmad Baba, a teacher of philosophy and theology. Every single one of these men had libraries larger than most European monasteries. Every single one wrote dozens of books. Every single one taught students from multiple continents. And every single one has been erased from the history you were taught. But here's the thing. They didn't just teach, they innovated. Let me break down exactly what these Timbuktu scholars achieved. Because when I say they were ahead of Europe, I'm not exaggerating. I'm understating. In mathematics, Timbuktu scholars developed applications of algebra that were 300 years ahead of Europe. They were working with quadratic equations, polynomial functions, geometric proofs that wouldn't appear in European mathematics until the Renaissance. Manuscripts from the 14th through 16th centuries show complex mathematical notation, advanced calculations, and theoretical work that rivals anything being done in the Islamic world or Europe. In astronomy, they built astrolabes. You know what an astrolabe is? It's a handheld device that calculates the position of stars and planets. It requires advanced knowledge of trigonometry, geometry, and astronomical observation. European sailors used astrolabes for navigation, but they didn't invent them. Islamic scholars did. And Timbuktu scholars improved them. They created astronomical tables called zijes that allowed faster and more accurate calculations of planetary positions. They encoded complex trigonometric functions into the devices, so users could just turn dials and read results. This is 15th century technology, mechanical computation. In Timbuktu, in medicine, they wrote extensively about disease treatment, herbal remedies, and surgical procedures. They documented anatomy. They shared medical knowledge throughout the Islamic world and influenced European medicine, though they never got credit for it. In law and philosophy, they developed Islamic legal theory that wouldn't reach Western universities for generations. They wrote philosophy that influenced European thinkers, though again, no credit given. They created academic standards that required students to master multiple disciplines before earning degrees. They established the model of comprehensive education that European universities would later adopt. In commerce and economics, they wrote about trade, taxation, and economic systems. They managed the trans-Saharan trade routes, the most important commercial network of the medieval world. They developed banking systems, credit instruments, and commercial law that governed trade from West Africa to the Middle East. In literature and language, they produced hundreds of thousands of texts covering every field of knowledge. They wrote in Arabic and in local languages like Songhai, Bambara, Fulfulde, and Tamashek. They preserved historical chronicles, letters, poetry, everything. Now pause and let this sink in. While Sankore had 25,000 students studying advanced algebra, astronomy, and surgical techniques, European universities were just beginning to teach basic arithmetic. Oxford was teaching Latin grammar. Cambridge was teaching elementary logic. Paris was focused on theology. And Timbuktu was 3 centuries ahead in mathematics, 2 centuries ahead in astronomy, and setting academic standards that Europe wouldn't match until the Enlightenment. But I know what some of you are thinking. If Timbuktu was so advanced, why were there European students there? Good question. Let me answer it. Sankore University accepted students from diverse backgrounds. That's documented. By the 12th century, the university had 25,000 students in a city of 100,000 people. These students came from across Africa, yes. From the Middle East, absolutely. And from Europe, definitely. Why would European students travel for months across the Mediterranean and through the hostile Sahara Desert to study in Timbuktu? Because they couldn't learn what they needed to know anywhere else. The knowledge didn't exist in Europe yet. If you wanted to study advanced mathematics, you went to Timbuktu or Cairo or Baghdad. If you wanted to study astronomy beyond basic observation, you went where the astronomical tables and instruments were. If you wanted to study Islamic law, which governed the most powerful civilizations in the world at that time, you had to learn from Islamic scholars. And the best were in Timbuktu. European students had to learn Arabic to study at Sankore. It was the language of instruction and the language of commerce in Timbuktu. They had to memorize the Quran, all of it. That was the entrance requirement. And they had to demonstrate proficiency in multiple fields before they could specialize. Many European students couldn't meet these standards. They failed out. They went home because Sankore's academic requirements were too high for them. Let me say that again. European students were failing out of Sankore University. The standards were too high. Your ancestors weren't just smart, they were beyond what Europe could comprehend. Remember what Félix Dubois wrote: Arabs were not always equal to the requirements of Sankore. Even Arab scholars renowned across the medieval world sometimes couldn't meet the standards. How do you think European students coming from universities that were still teaching basic Latin fared? The knowledge European students gained at Sankore flowed back to Europe. Mathematical methods, astronomical techniques, medical treatments. All of it appeared in European scholarship decades or centuries later. But the textbooks don't mention Timbuktu. They don't cite black African professors. They attribute the innovations to European or Arab scholars. The theft was intellectual before it was physical. Let me be absolutely clear about what I'm saying. European scholars were taking notes from African teachers. They were students in African classrooms. They were learning mathematics that African professors had developed. And then they went home and published that knowledge under their own names, without attribution, without credit, without acknowledgement. That's not education. That's theft. Intellectual colonization before physical colonization. And when the physical colonization came, when Morocco invaded in 1591 and Europe carved up Africa in the 1800s, they didn't just steal the land and the resources. They stole the proof. They burned the manuscripts that documented African achievement. They killed the scholars who could testify to African brilliance. They rewrote the history books to erase African contributions. And they told you that Africa was the dark continent, that Africans had no history, that civilization came to Africa through European colonization. Every word was a lie. And the 350,000 manuscripts that survived hidden in African homes and caves and deserts for centuries prove it. Hold that thought, because what I'm about to show you next will shatter any remaining doubt you have. Timbuktu wasn't unique. It wasn't an exception. Across Africa, from Egypt to Ethiopia, from Benin to Zimbabwe, there were centers of learning, innovation, and scholarship. And every single one was systematically destroyed or erased. The pattern is undeniable. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Sankore wasn't unique. That's what they want you to think. That maybe Timbuktu was some kind of miraculous exception. One city, one moment in time, an anomaly in an otherwise dark continent. That's the lie they're comfortable with because it doesn't threaten the narrative. But the truth is so much bigger and so much more devastating to everything they taught you. Across Africa, from Egypt to Ethiopia, from Benin to Zimbabwe, from Kilwa to Aksum, there were centers of learning, innovation, and scholarship, universities, libraries, observatories, research institutions, and every single one was systematically destroyed or erased. This wasn't accident. This wasn't natural decline. This was deliberate policy enacted over centuries by empires that understood something crucial: control knowledge and you control history. Control history, and you control the future. Let me show you the pattern. And once you see it, you'll never be able to unsee it. Start with the Library of Alexandria in Egypt. You've heard of this one. They actually teach it in schools. The greatest library of the ancient world. Founded around 300 BC. At its height, it held between 400,000 and 700,000 scrolls. Scholars from across the Mediterranean and Middle East came to study there. It was the intellectual center of the ancient world, and then it burned. Multiple times, actually. Julius Caesar's forces burned part of it in 48 BC during a military campaign. Christian mobs destroyed much of what remained in 391 AD, and Arab armies finished it off in the 640s AD, though some historians dispute this. But here's what they don't tell you in school. Alexandria is in Egypt, in Africa. And before it became a Greek city, before Alexander the Great conquered it, Egypt had been a center of learning for 3,000 years. The Library of Alexandria didn't create African scholarship, it continued it. And when it burned, 3,000 years of accumulated African knowledge went up in flames. They burned Alexandria to control knowledge. They burned Timbuktu for the same reason. And they burned or buried every other African center of learning for the exact same reason. Knowledge is power, and they couldn't allow Africans to hold it. Let me tell you about what survived at Timbuktu despite the burnings. 350,000 manuscripts have been cataloged from dozens of ancient libraries across Timbuktu. 350,000. And that's just what survived. Scholars estimate that 700,000 manuscripts existed before the 1591 invasion. That means more than half were destroyed or stolen. But let's focus on what's left. 350,000 manuscripts. What do they contain? Historical chronicles, letters, poetry, theology, legal opinions called fatwas, medicine, astronomy, astrology, commerce, trade, treaties, commentaries written by local and international scholars. Every field of human knowledge documented in Arabic and local African languages across 5 centuries of continuous scholarship. And here's the thing that breaks my heart and fills me with pride at the same time. How did these manuscripts survive? African families hid them. In their homes, in the walls, in caves, in the desert. Buried in sand, wrapped in cloth, protected with their lives. Through the Moroccan invasion in 1591, through European colonization in the 1800s, through drought and war and poverty. For 400 years, African families protected your history when no one else would. In 2012, when jihadist groups Al-Qaeda and Ansar Dine took control of Timbuktu, they tried to finish what Morocco started in 1591. They began burning manuscripts. 4,203 manuscripts were destroyed. But a man named Abdelkader Haidara organized the rescue. He and a network of librarians and citizens smuggled 345,000 manuscripts out of Timbuktu. They packed them in metal trunks. They hid them under vegetables and fruit in cars. They loaded them onto boats and donkeys. They moved them south to Bamako, the capital of Mali, where they'd be safe. Think about that for a moment. In 2012, while you were watching the Olympics or arguing about the presidential election, African scholars were literally risking their lives to save manuscripts. Some of the manuscripts were so fragile that pages fell out during transport. But they kept going because they understood what you're learning right now. These manuscripts aren't just old books. They're proof. Proof that your ancestors were brilliant. Proof that African civilization was real and advanced and magnificent. Proof that destroys 500 years of lies. Your ancestors didn't just write these manuscripts. They protected them through wars, invasions, colonization, and terrorism. They risked their lives to preserve your history. That's the legacy you carry. That's the blood that flows in your veins. Warriors who fought not with swords, but with books, who understood that knowledge is the one thing no one can take from you unless you let them. But Timbuktu wasn't the only center of learning in Africa. Let me take you to Cairo. Al-Azhar University was founded in 970 AD. It's still operating today over 1,000 years later. It's one of the oldest continuously operating universities in the world. And it was a center of Islamic scholarship that rivaled anything in Baghdad or Damascus. Students came from across the Islamic world to study there, including African students from Timbuktu. Remember, Muhammad Bagayogo. He received an honorary doctorate from Al-Azhar. Because his work in mathematics and astronomy was so advanced that the scholars at Al-Azhar scholars, who had studied the greatest thinkers of the Islamic Golden Age, recognized him as a peer. A black African professor from Timbuktu was honored by the most prestigious university in the Islamic world. Think about what that means. African scholars weren't isolated. They were part of a vast network of intellectual exchange that stretched from West Africa to Cairo, to Fez, to Tunis, to Baghdad. They corresponded with scholars across the Islamic world. They shared manuscripts. They debated ideas. They taught each other students. This was a living, breathing intellectual community, and it was centered in Africa. The trans-Saharan trade routes weren't just moving gold and salt. They were moving ideas. Books traveled with the caravans. Scholars traveled with the merchants. Students went north to study in Cairo and Fez. Scholars from Cairo and Fez went south to teach in Timbuktu. It was a two-way exchange of knowledge, and Africa was at the center of it. But it wasn't just the Islamic world. Let me tell you about other African civilizations that achieved greatness and were systematically erased. The Kingdom of Benin in what's now Nigeria. From the 13th to the 19th century, Benin was a center of art, sculpture, and architecture. The Benin bronzes are some of the most sophisticated metalwork ever created. When Europeans first saw them, they couldn't believe Africans had made them. The craftsmanship was too advanced, the detail too intricate. It didn't fit the narrative of African savagery. In 1897, British forces invaded Benin. They called it a punitive expedition. That's the sanitized term. What actually happened was a massacre. British soldiers killed thousands. They burned the city, and they looted the royal palace. They took thousands of bronze sculptures, ivory carvings, and artifacts. Those artifacts ended up in British museums. The British Museum alone holds over 900 Benin bronzes. Germany has about 500. American museums have hundreds more. All stolen, all looted from a civilization that Europeans claimed didn't exist. And here's the kicker. They didn't just steal the art. They destroyed the records. The Benin Kingdom had extensive records of its history, its rulers, its trade networks. All of it was burned or scattered. Why? Because if people knew that Benin had been a sophisticated kingdom, with advanced metalworking international trade and centralized government, they couldn't justify colonization. They couldn't claim they were bringing civilization to savages. So they burned the proof and stole the art. Great Zimbabwe, a stone city in what's now Zimbabwe that was built between the 11th and 15th centuries. Massive stone walls, intricate architecture, evidence of long-distance trade with the Swahili coast, Arabia, even China. When Europeans discovered it in the 1800s, they refused to believe Africans had built it. They invented theories that it was built by Phoenicians or Arabs or even the Queen of Sheba. Anything except the obvious truth, that black Africans had built a stone city that rivaled anything in medieval Europe. They couldn't allow Great Zimbabwe to be an African achievement because it destroyed their narrative. So they attributed it to anyone except Africans. And when the evidence became undeniable, when archaeology proved beyond doubt that black Africans built Great Zimbabwe, they just stopped talking about it. It disappeared from textbooks. It became a footnote. because the truth was too dangerous. Kilwa Kisiwani on the coast of Tanzania, a major port city from the 9th to 16th centuries. Stone buildings, mosques with intricate Islamic architecture, a trading network that connected East Africa with India, Arabia, and China. Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama described Kilwa as one of the most beautiful cities he'd ever seen. And then, the Portuguese destroyed it. In 1505, Portuguese forces attacked Kilwa, killed the Sultan, and burned much of the city. Why? Because Kilwa controlled trade routes the Portuguese wanted. So they took them by force and erased the civilization that had built them. The Kingdom of Aksum in Ethiopia. From the 1st to the 7th century, AD, Aksum was one of the great powers of the ancient world. It had its own written script, Ge'ez, which is still used in Ethiopian Orthodox Church services today. It minted its own coins. It built massive stone obelisks, some over 100 feet tall. It traded with Rome, India, and Arabia. It was wealthy, powerful, and sophisticated. And yet most people have never heard of it. Why? Because acknowledging Aksum means acknowledging that African civilization was contemporary with Rome. That while Europe was in the Dark Ages, Africa was thriving. And that doesn't fit the narrative. Do you see the pattern? Now, every time Africans built something great, it was destroyed, stolen, or erased. Every time. Not sometimes, not occasionally, every single time. The Library of Alexandria burned. Timbuktu's libraries were looted and burned. Benin's art was stolen and its records destroyed. Great Zimbabwe was attributed to non-Africans. Kilwa was razed by the Portuguese. And the only reason we know about any of this is because enough evidence survived to make the truth undeniable. This was an accident. This was policy. Enacted by empires, implemented by armies, justified by lies. And it worked for 500 years. It worked so well that you grew up not knowing. Your parents didn't know. Your grandparents didn't know. 3 generations raised on lies. Told that Africa had no history before colonization. Told that Africans contributed nothing to world civilization. Told that you should be grateful for slavery because it brought your ancestors to the civilized world. Every word was a calculated lie. And the evidence of that lie is sitting in museums across Europe and America. Stolen art from Benin. Looted manuscripts from Timbuktu. Archaeological evidence from Great Zimbabwe and Kilwa. It's all there, hidden in plain sight, displayed as European discoveries, credited to European explorers, while the African civilizations that created it are erased from the story. But you know now, and you can never unknow it. The question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Are you going to stay silent? Or are you going to share this truth? Are you going to let them continue erasing your history? Or are you going to reclaim it? Hold that thought, because I need to show you exactly how they covered this up. The mechanisms they used to suppress this truth, the laws they passed, the textbooks they rewrote, the stories they told to make sure you'd never know. The suppression was as systematic as the destruction. And understanding how they did it is crucial to understanding why you never learned this in school. The destruction was obvious. The burnings, the invasions, the theft. But that's only half the story. The other half is how they covered it up. How they made sure that 3 generations would grow up, never knowing what was stolen. That's the part that should make you angry. Because the destruction happened centuries ago. But the cover-up, that's recent. That happened in your lifetime, in your parents' lifetime. And it's still happening right now. Let me show you exactly how they did it. The mechanisms of suppression, the laws, the textbooks, the media, the deliberate, systematic erasure of your history. Start with physical destruction. We covered the 1591 Moroccan invasion, but that was just the beginning. When Sultan Ahmad al-Mansur sent his army across the Sahara, he had specific orders. Secure the gold mines, control the trade routes, and seize the manuscripts. Not destroy them. Seize them. Because Morocco understood their value. Knowledge is power. And those manuscripts contained 5 centuries of accumulated knowledge. So they loaded manuscripts onto camels, thousands of them. They sent them back to Morocco, where they were studied, copied, and eventually integrated into Moroccan scholarship without attribution. The mathematical innovations of Timbuktu became Moroccan mathematics. The astronomical tables became Moroccan astronomy. The medical texts became Moroccan medicine. And Timbuktu's scholars got no credit. Their names were erased, their contributions stolen, but they couldn't take everything. The libraries were too vast. 700,000 manuscripts. Even an army of looters couldn't carry all of that across 1,000 miles of desert. So what they couldn't take, they burned. They set fire to private libraries. They destroyed manuscript collections in mosques and madrasas. They turned centuries of scholarship into ash. Why? Because if Morocco couldn't have it, they'd make sure no one else could either. And then there were the scholars, the witnesses, the men who could rebuild from memory what had been destroyed. Morocco arrested them. Remember Ahmad Baba. They seized him in 1593 along with dozens of other leading scholars. They marched them to Morocco in chains. They imprisoned them, and they destroyed their personal libraries. Ahmad Baba lost 1,600 books, the smallest collection among Timbuktu scholars. Think about how much knowledge died when those libraries burned. Imagine the Library of Congress going up in flames. Now multiply that by several dozen private collections. That's what was lost. But Ahmad Baba's story also shows something crucial. They couldn't destroy the knowledge in his head. Even in chains, even imprisoned in a foreign land, even with his library destroyed, Ahmad Baba was still the most knowledgeable scholar in Morocco. The Moroccan scholars had to admit it. They begged him to teach, and he did. Because you can burn books, but you can't burn brilliance. Fast forward to 2012. The jihadi groups Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb and Ansar Deen took control of Timbuktu. And they did exactly what Morocco did in 1591. They targeted the manuscripts. They burned the Ahmed Baba Institute of Higher Learning and Islamic Research. They set fire to private libraries. 4,203 manuscripts were destroyed before they were driven out. But here's the victory. 90% of the manuscripts were saved. Abdel Kader Haidara and a network of librarians and citizens organized a rescue operation. They packed 345,000 manuscripts into metal trunks. They hid them under vegetables and fruit in cars. They smuggled them out of Timbuktu on donkeys and boats and trucks. They moved them to Bamako where they'd be safe. And many of the manuscripts were so fragile that pages fell out in transit. But they kept going. Your ancestors protected knowledge through invasions, slavery, colonization, and terrorism. They hid manuscripts in walls and caves and sand for 400 years. They risked their lives in 2012 to smuggle them to safety. That's the warrior spirit you carry. That's the legacy in your DNA. Never forget that. But physical destruction is only one method of suppression. The second is legal suppression, using the law to make sure Africans couldn't own access or benefit from their own history. When France colonized Mali in the late 1800s, they called it French Sudan. And they immediately implemented policies designed to erase African culture and history. They banned the teaching of African history in schools. They made French the official language and punished students for speaking local languages like Bambara or Songhai. They imposed a French education system that taught African children that their ancestors hadn't civilization until the French arrived to save them. Think about that. Imagine your child going to school, and being told that everything their great-grandparents built was worthless, that their language was primitive, that their history began the day white people showed up. That's what French colonization did to millions of African children. And it worked. By the 1960s, when Mali gained independence, most Malians under the age of 40 had never learned about the glory of Timbuktu. They knew the city was there, but they didn't know it had been the intellectual capital of the medieval world. They didn't know about Ahmad Baba or Sankore University or the 700,000 manuscripts, because the French made sure they never learned. The French also confiscated manuscripts and sent them to museums in Paris. They claimed they were preserving African heritage, but what they were really doing was stealing it, taking it out of African hands and putting it in European institutions where it could be studied by European scholars who would publish papers under their own names without acknowledging the African origins of the knowledge. It was the same theft that happened in 1591, just with different justification. In 1591 it was war. In 1891 it was civilization. But the result was the same: African knowledge in European hands. And here's the truly insidious part. The French passed laws that made it illegal for Africans to own historical sites. If you were African and you lived near ancient ruins or historical buildings, you couldn't claim ownership. The colonial government declared all historical sites property of the French state, and they gave French archaeologists and historians exclusive rights to excavate and study them. So when French archaeologists discovered manuscripts in Timbuktu, they claimed them as French discoveries. When they found evidence of ancient universities and libraries, they published papers crediting French exploration. The fact that Africans had been living with and preserving these sites for centuries didn't matter. The law said France owned them, and France made sure the world believed that France had discovered them. This legal theft continued after independence. Mali became independent in 1960, but many of the colonial laws remained on the books, and Mali was poor, devastated by a century of colonization that had extracted all wealth and left nothing behind. So even though Mali legally owned its manuscripts and historical sites, it didn't have the resources to preserve and study them. Meanwhile, European and American museums and universities had plenty of resources. So they offered to help. They sent teams to study the manuscripts. They offered to preserve them. And in exchange, they took photographs and microfilm copies and digital scans, which they then used to publish research under their own names. I'm not saying all of this was malicious. Some scholars genuinely wanted to help preserve African heritage. But the system was designed to ensure that even when Africans owned their history, Europeans controlled access to it. And that meant European scholars got credit for studying and interpreting African achievements, while African scholars, even when they knew more, were shut out because they didn't have the funding or the institutional support. That's legal suppression, using laws and institutions to maintain control over African history, even after colonization officially ended. The third method of suppression is educational erasure, making sure you never learned this in school. I want you to think about your history education: elementary school, middle school, high school, maybe college. How much did you learn about African history? Did you learn about Timbuktu? Did you hear the name Ahmad Baba? Did anyone tell you that African universities existed before European ones? Did anyone mention that Africans were teaching Europeans mathematics in the 1400s? I'm going to guess the answer is no. You learned about ancient Egypt maybe, pyramids and pharaohs, but they taught it as if Egypt wasn't in Africa, as if it was somehow separate. Middle Eastern, not African. You learned about slavery, the Atlantic slave trade, the Middle Passage. But the story started with Africans as victims, helpless people who were captured and enslaved. No mention of the civilizations they came from. No mention of the scholars, the kingdoms, the universities. You learned about European history, the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, the Scientific Revolution. All these moments when European knowledge supposedly exploded, but no mention of where that knowledge came from. No acknowledgement that Islamic scholars, including African Islamic scholars, had preserved Greek and Roman texts through the Dark Ages. No credit given for the mathematical and astronomical innovations that came from Timbuktu and Cairo and Baghdad. The story was told as if Europeans invented everything, or at least discovered everything independently, and Africa was the dark continent. That's literally what they called it. Dark. As if the lack of European knowledge about Africa meant Africa had no knowledge at all. As if European ignorance was proof of African inferiority. The arrogance is breathtaking when you really think about it. This wasn't an accident. Textbooks were deliberately written to exclude African achievement. Curricula were designed to start African history with colonization. Teachers were trained to teach that civilization flowed from Europe to Africa, not the other way around. And generations of students, black and white, grew up believing it. Even the language was calculated. Timbuktu was called a mosque, not a university. African scholars were called clerics, not professors. African manuscripts were called religious texts, not scientific treatises. Every word choice was designed to diminish African achievement, to make it seem less important, less impressive, less worthy of study. And it worked. For 150 years, from roughly 1850 to 2000, African achievement was systematically erased from education. 3 generations of African Americans grew up not knowing. Your great-grandparents didn't know. Your grandparents didn't know. Your parents didn't know. And most of you watching this video right now didn't know until a few minutes ago. That's educational erasure. And it's ongoing. Right now in 2025, most American schools still don't teach about Timbuktu. Most history textbooks still start African history with colonization. Most students still graduate believing that Africans contributed nothing to world civilization. The erasure continues, but it gets worse. The 4th method of suppression is media manipulation. Controlling the narrative in newspapers, movies, television, and now social media. When the Timbuktu manuscripts were rediscovered in the early 2000s, it should have been front-page news. 350,000 surviving manuscripts proving that African civilization was real and advanced and sophisticated. Proving that everything taught about Africa for the last 150 years was a lie. That should have been the biggest historical revelation of the century. But how much coverage did it get? Barely any. A few articles in academic journals, maybe a mention in the New York Times, a documentary or two on obscure cable channels, but nothing mainstream. Nothing that would reach millions of people and force them to reconsider what they'd been taught. And when it was covered, how was it framed? As a feel-good story about preservation. Look at these brave Africans saving their cultural heritage. Isn't that nice? Completely missing the point. The story wasn't just about preservation. It was about revelation. These manuscripts proved that African scholars were teaching advanced mathematics in the 1300s. That Timbuktu had a library that rivaled Alexandria. That European students came to Africa to learn. That's the story. But that's not how it was told. Why? Because that story threatens too much. It threatens the foundation of how history has been taught for 150 years. It threatens the narrative that justified slavery and colonization. It raises uncomfortable questions about reparations and stolen wealth. So the media buried it. They turned a revolutionary historical discovery into a minor human interest story. And most people never heard about it at all. Go back further. When European explorers first encountered African civilizations, how did they describe them with shock and denial? When they saw the Benin bronzes, intricate metal sculptures that required advanced metallurgy and artistic skill, they couldn't believe Africans had made them. European newspapers published articles speculating that maybe Phoenicians or Arabs or some other non-African civilization was responsible. Anything except acknowledging African achievement. When they found Great Zimbabwe, same thing. Massive stone structures, advanced architecture, evidence of long-distance trade. European archaeologists spent decades inventing theories about who really built it. The Queen of Sheba, ancient Israelites, Arab traders, anyone except black Africans. And newspapers repeated these theories as fact. The idea that Africans could build stone cities was literally unthinkable in the European imagination. And when the evidence became undeniable, when archaeology proved beyond doubt that Africans built these civilizations, the media just stopped covering them. Great Zimbabwe disappeared from newspapers. The Benin Kingdom became a footnote, and new generations grew up never hearing about them at all. That's media manipulation. Not just lying about history, but controlling what gets covered and how it gets framed. Making sure that stories which threaten the narrative never reach a wide audience. And stories that do get covered are stripped of their revolutionary implications. Even today, even with the internet, even with social media, this manipulation continues. You can find information about Timbuktu online, but you have to know to look for it. The algorithms don't promote it. It doesn't trend on Twitter. It doesn't go viral on TikTok. Meanwhile, stereotypes about Africa being primitive and backwards get millions of views. Images of poverty and war and disease dominate African coverage. And the message, subtle but constant, is that Africa has nothing to offer the world. That Africans need help from outsiders. That the continent is helpless without Western intervention. Every documentary about saving African wildlife or feeding African children reinforces this narrative. I'm not saying those causes aren't important, but where are the documentaries about African innovation, about African achievement, about the African scholars who shaped world civilization? They barely exist, and when they do exist, they're relegated to niche channels that nobody watches. That's how media manipulation works. Not through outright lies, though those happen too, but through omission, through framing, through control of what stories get told and how they get told. And the result is that even in 2025, with more information available than ever before in human history, most people still don't know the truth about African civilization. Do you see the pattern now? Physical destruction of manuscripts and artifacts, legal theft through colonial laws, educational erasure through textbooks and curricula, media manipulation through controlled narratives. Every system working together to ensure you never learned the truth. They burned the libraries in 1591. They stole the artifacts in 1897. They rewrote the textbooks in 1900. They buried the stories in 2000. And for 500 years it worked. You didn't know. Your parents didn't know. Your grandparents didn't know. The truth was successfully hidden for generations. But here's what they didn't count on. The knowledge survived. 350,000 manuscripts hidden in African homes for 400 years. Archaeological evidence they couldn't destroy. Oral histories passed down through generations. DNA evidence proving African migrations and achievements. The truth survived. And now it's coming out. Slowly, against massive resistance. But it's coming out. And once you know, you can't unknow. Once you've seen the pattern, you can't unsee it. The question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Are you going to accept that your ancestors were victims? Or are you going to recognize that they were warriors who protected truth through 5 centuries of systematic suppression? Are you going to stay silent? Or are you going to share this truth with everyone you know? Before you answer, let me show you why this matters right now. Today, in 2025, because this isn't just ancient history. The theft that started in 1591 is still affecting your life today. The wealth gap, the education gap, the opportunity gap, all of it connects directly to what I've been telling you. And once you see the connection, everything makes sense. Let me show you how history connects to your bank account. How the burning of Timbuktu in 1591 explains why you're struggling to pay rent in 2025. How the theft of African knowledge created the wealth gap that's destroying Black families right now. This is where it gets personal. This is where you understand that this isn't just about the past. This is about your present and your future. The median white household in America has $284,310 in wealth as of 2022. The median Black household has $44,100. That means white households have 6.4 times more wealth than Black households. Black families have only 15.5% of the wealth that white families have, 84.5% less. Now they'll tell you that's because of personal choices. Black people don't save enough, don't invest enough, don't work hard enough. That's the story they tell. But let me tell you the real story. In 1591, Timbuktu had 700,000 manuscripts, worth more than most European kingdoms. The scholars of Timbuktu owned personal libraries of thousands of books each. Ahmad Baba owned 1,600 books, and he said that was small. In the 1500s, when European kings owned maybe 50 books, these were men of immense wealth. Books were expensive. A single manuscript could cost as much as a horse. Having 1,600 manuscripts meant you were rich, extraordinarily rich. And it wasn't just books. Timbuktu sat at the crossroads of the trans-Saharan trade. Gold from West Africa, salt from the Sahara, goods from across the Islamic world. The scholars weren't just intellectuals, they were merchants, traders, wealthy men who controlled commerce and used that wealth to fund education and scholarship. When Morocco invaded in 1591, they didn't just burn books, they stole wealth, gold, trade goods, property, land. They confiscated the personal fortunes of the scholars they arrested. Ahmad Baba's 1,600 books, gone. His house confiscated. His trade goods stolen. His gold taken. Everything he'd accumulated over a lifetime of scholarship and commerce was seized by Moroccan soldiers. And he was one of dozens. Multiply that theft by every scholar arrested, by every library burned, by every merchant killed. That's millions of dollars of wealth in today's terms, stolen in a single invasion. And then came European colonization. In the 1800s, France, Britain, Belgium, Germany, Portugal, and others carved up Africa. They called it the scramble for Africa. But scramble is too polite a word. It was theft. State-sanctioned military and forced theft on a continental scale. They stole land, millions of acres that African families had owned for generations. They declared it colonial property and gave it to European settlers. They stole resources, gold, diamonds, rubber, ivory, cocoa, coffee. Everything of value was extracted and shipped to Europe. They stole labor, forced African men to work in mines and on plantations for little or no pay. And they stole wealth. Any African who had accumulated property or money had it confiscated or taxed away. When African countries finally gained independence in the 1960s, they were left with nothing. A century of colonization had extracted every ounce of wealth and left behind poverty, underdevelopment, and deliberately weakened institutions. That wasn't an accident. That was policy. Keep Africans poor so they'd be dependent on European aid. Keep them undereducated so they couldn't compete economically. Keep them divided so they couldn't organize politically. But this story isn't just about Africa. It's about you, Black Americans. Your ancestors were stolen from Africa during the slave trade. For 400 years, from roughly 1500 to 1900, 12 million Africans were kidnapped and enslaved. 12 million. And they came from civilizations, from kingdoms, from families with wealth and property and heritage. They weren't primitive savages. They were people with history, with culture, with accumulated wealth that went back generations. All of that was stolen. Your ancestor wasn't just enslaved. Everything they owned was taken. Their land, their home, their families' accumulated wealth. And in America, they were forced to work for free for 250 years, building American wealth with their labor and receiving nothing in return. Let me put that in economic terms. Economists estimate that enslaved Africans provided $20 trillion worth of unpaid labor to build American wealth. $20 trillion. That's labor your ancestors provided and were never compensated for. Labor that built the richest country in the world. Labor that created generational wealth for white families, while black families got nothing. And when slavery ended in 1865, did black families get compensated? Did they get the land they were promised, 40 acres and a mule? Numero. That promise was broken. Instead, black families were freed with nothing. No money, no land, no compensation for 250 years of stolen labor. And then they were expected to compete economically with white families who had inherited wealth built on that stolen labor. That's where the wealth gap comes from. Not from black people being lazy or bad with money, from theft. Systematic centuries-long theft of labor, land, and wealth. Theft that started in Africa with the looting of Timbuktu, and continued in America with slavery, and continued after slavery with Jim Crow and redlining and mass incarceration. The theft never stopped. It just changed form. After slavery, there was Jim Crow. From 1877 to 1965, black Americans lived under a system of legal oppression designed to keep them poor and powerless. They couldn't vote, couldn't own property in white neighborhoods, couldn't attend white schools or universities, couldn't get loans from white banks. Every system was designed to prevent wealth accumulation. And when black people did accumulate wealth, it was destroyed. Let me tell you about Black Wall Street, Greenwood District in Tulsa, Oklahoma. In the early 1900s, it was the wealthiest black neighborhood in America. Black-owned businesses, black-owned banks, black millionaires. A thriving community built despite Jim Crow, built through hard work and determination and brilliance. On May 31st, 1921, a white mob attacked Greenwood. They burned 35 city blocks to the ground. They murdered an estimated 300 black residents. They destroyed 1,200 homes and businesses, and they looted everything they could carry. Millions of dollars of black wealth destroyed in 2 days. And the white mob was never prosecuted. The black families never compensated. Their property records were destroyed, so they couldn't prove ownership. And the massacre was erased from Oklahoma history textbooks for 75 years. This pattern repeated across America. Rosewood, Florida in 1923, Elaine, Arkansas in 1919, Wilmington, North Carolina in 1898. Everywhere black people built wealth, white mobs destroyed it. And the government did nothing. Or worse, the government helped. Police departments stood by while mobs burned black neighborhoods. National Guard units were deployed to assist white rioters. The legal system refused to prosecute the perpetrators, and after Jim Crow came redlining. From the 1930s to 1968, the federal government literally drew red lines on maps around black neighborhoods and declared them too risky for investment. Banks refused to give mortgages to black families in those neighborhoods, which meant black families couldn't buy homes, couldn't build equity, couldn't accumulate the wealth that comes from home ownership. Meanwhile, the federal government was subsidizing white homeownership through programs like the GI Bill and FHA loans, programs that explicitly excluded black people. White families got government help buying homes in suburbs where property values skyrocketed. Black families were trapped in red-lined neighborhoods where property values stagnated or declined. And over 50 years that created a wealth gap of hundreds of thousands of dollars per family. Redlining officially ended in 1968 with the Fair Housing Act. But by then, the damage was done. White families had built equity. Black families hadn't. And that gap has persisted and grown ever since. Today in 2025, the median white household has $284,000 in wealth. Most of that is home equity. Wealth accumulated because their grandparents were able to buy homes in the 1950s and 60s, when the government was subsidizing white home ownership. The median black household has $44,000 because their grandparents were redlined out of home ownership and never built that equity. This isn't ancient history. This affected your grandmother, your grandfather, your parents. This is why your family rents instead of owns. This is why you're struggling to build wealth. This is why no matter how hard you work, you can't seem to get ahead. Because the system stole your starting position, stole your inheritance, stole the wealth your ancestors should have passed down to you. If Timbuktu hadn't been burned in 1591, your ancestors might have inherited libraries worth millions. If slavery hadn't stolen 250 years of labor, your family might have inherited land and property. If Black Wall Street hadn't been destroyed in 1921, your grandparents might have inherited businesses and real estate. If redlining hadn't excluded your family from homeownership, your parents might have inherited equity. Every step of the way, the system stole from you, and then blamed you for being poor, told you to work harder, told you to make better choices, told you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, while ignoring the fact that they stole your boots and your straps and the ground you're standing on, and then charged you rent to stand on land your ancestors owned. That's not your failure. That's theft. $100 trillion of theft over 5 centuries. And every dollar they stole is a dollar you don't have. Every opportunity they denied your grandparents is an opportunity you don't have. Every library they burned is knowledge you weren't able to inherit. The system rigged the game before you were born, and then blamed you for losing. But now you know. And knowledge is power. The same power your ancestors protected in those 350,000 manuscripts. The power to name reality, to speak truth, to refuse the lies. That power is in you now. You are not weak. You are unbreakable. Think about what your ancestors survived. The Middle Passage, slavery, Jim Crow, and they're still here. You are here. That means they won. The system tried to break them and failed, tried to kill them and failed, tried to erase them and failed. Because you're here, living proof that they survived, that they won, that they passed something down to you. What did they pass down? Strength, resilience, brilliance, the ability to survive anything, the refusal to quit, the determination to keep going even when everything is stacked against you. That's in your DNA. That's not metaphor, that's biology. Trauma is passed down through generations, yes, but so is strength, so is resistance, so is survival. You are not what they told you. They told you that you're descendants of slaves. True, but incomplete. You're descendants of kings and queens and scholars and warriors who were enslaved and survived and resisted and preserved their humanity through hell. They told you that you're from a dark continent with no history. Lie. You're from the continent that gave birth to human civilization, that built pyramids and libraries and universities, that taught the world mathematics and astronomy and medicine, They told you that you're intellectually inferior. Lie. Your ancestors were teaching their ancestors. Your ancestors had libraries when their ancestors were illiterate. Your ancestors were writing books when their ancestors couldn't read. The intellectual inferiority is theirs, and they know it. That's why they had to burn the proof. They told you that you should be grateful for slavery because it brought your ancestors to civilization. That might be the most disgusting lie of all. Your ancestors were stolen from civilization and brought to barbarism. From cities with universities to plantations with whips. From libraries to cotton fields. From scholars to slaves. And they survived it and rebuilt. And now you're here. So who are you? You are warriors. You are scholars. You are survivors. You are heirs to stolen empires. You are children of brilliance. You are proof that genocide failed. That theft failed. That erasure failed. You are living, breathing evidence that no matter what they do, they cannot destroy you. You are descendants of Ahmad Baba, who wrote 60 books in chains. You are descendants of families who hid manuscripts in sand for 400 years. You are descendants of slaves who learned to read when it was illegal. You are descendants of protesters who faced dogs and hoses and kept marching. You are descendants of people who refused to accept their assigned place in the hierarchy, who demanded equality, who fought for justice, who died for freedom, and that blood runs through your veins. That history is your history. That strength is your strength. That brilliance is your brilliance. Not potential brilliance, not future brilliance, present brilliance. Right now, you carry it. You are it. But there's more. There's a spiritual dimension to this that I need you to understand. Because this isn't just history. This isn't just sociology. This is divine appointment. God preserved you through the Middle Passage. Why millions died? 2 million died in the crossing alone. Why did your ancestors survive? Coincidence, luck, or purpose? Divine purpose. God kept them alive for a reason. God brought you through slavery. 250 years. Generations born and died in chains. Families ripped apart. Children sold away from mothers. Husbands separated from wives. Horror beyond description. And your ancestors survived it. Why? Because God had a plan. God kept you alive through Jim Crow, through lynchings and terrorism and legal oppression, through Black Wall Street burning and Rosewood burning and Tulsa burning, through every attempt to destroy you, and you're still here. Why? Because you have a mission. God revealed this truth to you today, right now. You watching this video, out of billions of people on Earth, you found this, or it found you. That's not accident. That's divine appointment. You were meant to learn this truth. You were chosen to carry this knowledge. Now the question is, what are you going to do with it? Your mission is fourfold. Listen carefully. This is your purpose. First, reveal truth. You must tell this story. Share this video. Talk about Ahmad Baba until every child knows his name. Talk about Sankore University until every school teaches it. Talk about the 350,000 manuscripts until museums are forced to display them. Talk about the $100 trillion of stolen wealth until reparations become policy. Your job is to reveal what was hidden, to speak what was silenced, to remember what was erased. Second, demand justice. Not beg, not request. Demand. Reparations are not charity, they're debt repayment. The wealth gap is not natural, it's theft. Mass incarceration is not justice, it's slavery. Police brutality is not isolated incidents, it's terrorism. Educational inequality is not chance, it's policy. Gentrification is not development, it's displacement. Name it. Call it what it is. Demand that it stop. Demand compensation for what was taken. Demand accountability for what was done. That's your job. Third, reclaim what was stolen. Your intellectual legacy, your cultural heritage, your history, your identity. They told you lies about who you are. Reject those lies. You are brilliant. You are powerful. You are worthy. You are heirs to greatness. Claim that. Own that. Live that. And pass it down to your children so they grow up knowing they descend from professors, not just slaves. From scholars, not just victims. From empires, not just oppression. Fourth, pass it forward. This knowledge dies if you keep it to yourself. Your children need to know. Your grandchildren need to know. The next generation needs to grow up with a completely different understanding of who they are. Not victims waiting to be saved, but warriors carrying a legacy. Not inferior people grateful for scraps, but brilliant people demanding what's owed. That transformation starts with you, teaching your children, telling these stories, making sure the next generation knows. This is your mission. Reveal truth. Demand justice. Reclaim legacy. Pass it forward. And it's not optional. This is divine assignment. You were preserved through genocide for this purpose. You were chosen to receive this knowledge for this mission. You are the answer to your ancestors' prayers. Think about Ahmad Baba in chains in Morocco. What do you think he prayed for? That someone someday would remember. That his books wouldn't be lost forever. That his story would be told. That his people would know what was stolen and fight to reclaim it. You are the answer to that prayer. You, right now. 500 years later, think about your great-great-great-grandmother picking cotton as a slave. What do you think she prayed for? That her children would be free. That someday, generations later, her descendants would know the truth. Would understand they weren't inferior. Would reclaim their dignity and power. You are the answer to that prayer. Think about your grandfather living through Jim Crow. What do you think he hoped for? That his grandchildren would live in a world where they knew their worth, where they understood their history, where they demanded justice and got it. You are the fulfillment of that hope. Psalm 105 verse 8 says, God remembers his covenant for 1,000 generations. Your ancestors cried out when their libraries burned, when they were chained and enslaved, when their wealth was stolen, and God heard. God preserved the proof. 350,000 manuscripts survived so you could know. So you could stand here today and say, I know the truth. I know who I am. I know what was stolen, and I demand it back. This is not coincidence. This is not accident. This is divine orchestration. You finding this video, you watching till this point, you learning this truth. This is God answering 500 years of prayers. This is God keeping his covenant. This is God revealing what was hidden so his people can be free. So what are you going to do? Are you going to stay silent? Or are you going to rise? Are you going to speak? Are you going to share this truth? Are you going to live like the heir to empires that you are? The choice is yours. But understand, this is not just about you. This is about your ancestors who died protecting this knowledge. This is about your children who need to inherit truth instead of lies. This is about the mission God gave you. Reveal truth. Demand justice. Reclaim legacy. Pass it forward. You are not here by accident. You are here because your ancestors prayed for this moment, when the truth would finally come to light, when their children would finally know. This is that moment. You are the answer to their prayers. Now, act like it. If this truth shocked you, if you had no idea your ancestors were professors teaching Europeans, I need you to comment truth below. Let me see how many of us were lied to. Let me see how many of us are waking up. Let me see the army that's forming. Because we're not alone. There are millions of us learning this truth right now. Millions waking up. Millions refusing to accept the lies anymore. And when we stand together, when we speak truth together, when we demand justice together, they cannot stop us. Hit that like button if you're tired of the lies, if you're done accepting poverty as your fault, if you're ready to demand what's owed. That like button is more than just a click. It's a statement. It's saying, I see the truth now. I understand what was stolen. And I refuse to stay silent. And share this video. Please. Share it with someone who needs to know. Your cousin who thinks slavery was long ago. Your parent who never learned this in school. Your child who needs to grow up with a different understanding of who they are. Your friend who's struggling and needs to know that their struggle isn't their fault. Share it with someone of a different race who needs to understand what really happened. Because the truth doesn't divide us. Lies divide us. Truth unites us in the pursuit of justice. Don't let them erase us again. The only way this truth spreads is if we spread it. The schools won't teach it. The media won't cover it. The textbooks won't include it. So we have to. You and me and everyone watching this video. We are the ones who have to make sure this truth survives. Just like our ancestors made sure those 350,000 manuscripts survived. We are the protectors of truth now. That's our job. Will you do it? Subscribe to this channel because this isn't the only story. There are hundreds more. Stories of African kingdoms and black millionaires and stolen inventions and hidden achievements. Stories of resistance and brilliance and power. The history they don't want you to know. And I'm going to tell every single one. But I need you with me. I need you subscribed. I need you watching. I need you sharing. Because this is a movement. This is the reclamation of our history. And we're just getting started. Tell your children this story. Tonight. Sit them down and say, I learned something today that changes everything. Your ancestors were professors. They taught mathematics at universities with 25,000 students. They wrote 60 books. They owned libraries of 1,600 manuscripts, and the world tried to erase them. But we remember. We know. And we're going to make sure you know so you can tell your children. That's how we win. Not through violence, not through hate, through truth, through knowledge, through refusing to let them erase us one more generation. Your children growing up knowing they're brilliant, knowing they're heirs to empires, knowing the poverty they see isn't their fault, but the result of theft. That changes everything. That creates a generation that refuses to accept oppression, that demands justice, that reclaims power. That's what terrifies them. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Don't let them erase us again. This is our history. We must preserve it. We must shout it. We must make sure every generation knows. You are the keeper of this truth now. You are the link between your ancestors who protected it and your children who need to inherit it. That's your position. That's your responsibility. That's your honor. This isn't revenge. Let me be clear about that. This isn't about hating white people. This isn't about blaming individuals who weren't alive during slavery or colonization. This is about truth and justice. This is about naming what happened, acknowledging the theft, and demanding restitution. That's not divisive. That's basic morality. If someone steals from you, they owe you. Simple as that. This isn't about division. This is about unity through truth. Because right now we're divided by lies. White people believe they earned everything. Black people believe they failed. Both beliefs are false. The truth is, there was theft. Massive, systematic, centuries-long theft. And until we acknowledge that, until we address that, we'll stay divided. Truth doesn't divide. Truth reveals the division that already exists and gives us a path to heal it. This is about loving ourselves enough to demand the truth, about honoring our ancestors by refusing to let their memory be erased, about giving our children the inheritance they deserve, an inheritance of truth and pride and knowledge and power. That's what this is about. You are part of this story, not just learning it, living it. You are the continuation of 500 years of resistance. You are the fulfillment of prayers prayed in chains. You are the living answer to the question, did they win? No, we're still here. We still know. We still fight. They didn't win. We did. Because we survived. And survival is victory. Let me pray for you. For us. For this moment. For what comes next. Father God, we come before you with hearts full of emotion. Grief for what was stolen. Anger at what was done. But also gratitude. Because you preserved us. You kept us alive through genocide. You protected the truth through 350,000 manuscripts. You brought us to this moment where we finally know. We thank you for the warriors who came before us. For Ahmad Baba as Sudan, who wrote 60 books and taught even in chains. For the scholars of Sankore, who built a university that educated the world. For the families who hid manuscripts in caves and sand for 400 years. For the slaves who survived the Middle Passage and kept their humanity. For the protesters who faced dogs and hoses and kept marching. For every ancestor who refused to quit. Who refused to forget, who refused to let our history die. We pray for justice, for the scholars whose libraries were burned, for the millions who died in the Middle Passage, for the generations born and died in slavery, for the families whose wealth was stolen in Tulsa and Rosewood and Wilmington, for everyone who suffered and never saw justice in their lifetime. We pray that their sacrifice was not in vain, that we will honor them by continuing their fight. We pray for restoration of what was stolen, not just money, though we pray for reparations, but restoration of our history, our knowledge, our identity, our pride. Restore to us what centuries of theft took away. Give us back our true names, our true heritage, our true power. We pray for awakening of your people. Open their eyes to see the lies they've been taught. Open their hearts to embrace the truth. Open their minds to understand who they really are. Not victims, not inferior, but brilliant, powerful, worthy, heirs to empires. Open their mouths to speak this truth, to share it, to shout it until everyone knows. Bless those who seek truth. Give them courage to face uncomfortable realities. Give them wisdom to understand what they learn. Give them strength to act on what they know. Protect them from the backlash that comes when you speak truth to power. Surround them with people who support and encourage them. Use them as warriors in the battle for truth and justice. Strengthen those who resist erasure. The scholars preserving manuscripts in Timbuktu. The teachers trying to include African history in curricula despite resistance. The parents teaching their children truth at home when schools won't. The content creators making videos like this one. The activists demanding reparations. The historians uncovering buried evidence. Give them strength to keep going when the work feels impossible. Remind them that they're not alone. That you are with them, that their ancestors are with them, that victory is coming. Vindicate the memory of our ancestors. Let their names be known. Let their achievements be taught. Let their brilliance be acknowledged. Let the world finally admit what was stolen and who stole it. Vindicate Ahmad Baba. Vindicate the scholars of Sankore. Vindicate the builders of great Zimbabwe and Benin and Kilwa. Vindicate the enslaved who resisted. Vindicate the families burned out of Tulsa. Vindicate everyone whose story was erased. Let truth vindicate them all, and give us courage to demand what is ours. Not in anger, though righteous anger has its place, but in power, in confidence, in the absolute certainty that we are right and they are wrong. That theft is theft, no matter how much time has passed. That justice delayed is justice denied, but justice demanded eventually prevails. Give us the courage of our ancestors who faced worse and survived. We pray all this in the mighty name of Jesus Christ, who came to set the captives free, who came to give sight to the blind, who came to proclaim good news to the poor and liberty to the oppressed. We claim that liberation now. We claim that sight now. We claim that good news now. We are free. Free from lies. Free from shame. Free from the mental chains they put on us. We are free. Amen. Walk in truth. That's my charge to you as we close. Walk in truth every single day. When someone repeats the lie that Africa had no history, correct them. When someone says slavery was long ago, remind them the theft is ongoing. When someone blames black poverty on black choices, tell them about the $100 trillion that was stolen. When someone says reparations are unrealistic, tell them theft is unrealistic, but it happened anyway, and debts must be paid. Walk in truth. Demand justice. Not sometimes. Not when it's convenient. Always. In every conversation. In every interaction. In every decision you make. You know now. You can't unknow. And knowing creates responsibility. The responsibility to speak, to share, to fight, to refuse silence. You are free. Free from the lies that said you were less than. Free from the shame that said your poverty was your fault. Free from the ignorance that kept you powerless. You are free because you know the truth, and the truth has set you free. This is Dark History Stories. This is where we reclaim what was stolen, where we speak what was silenced, where we remember what was erased. This is not just a channel. This is a movement, and you are part of it now. My name is speaking truth to a generation that was lied to, and I will not stop until every story is told, until every name is known, until every achievement is acknowledged, until every debt is paid. This is just the beginning. Sankore University is just one story. There are hundreds more, and we're going to tell them all. Until next time, remember this. You are descended from professors who taught Europeans. You are heirs to libraries of 700,000 manuscripts. You are children of empires that rivaled anything in the medieval world. You are survivors of genocide who refused to die. You are warriors who protected truth through 5 centuries of suppression. You are brilliant. You are powerful. You are worthy. Build wealth, not just for yourself, for your children, for your grandchildren. Break the cycle of poverty that theft created. Invest. Save. Start businesses. Buy property. Accumulate assets. And pass them down. Create the generational wealth that should have been yours all along. Demand reparations. Write to your representatives. Vote for politicians who support reparations. Join organizations fighting for economic justice. Make noise. Make it impossible to ignore. Make it clear that this debt will not be forgotten, that we will not stop demanding until it's paid. Remember the theft. Remember Timbuktu. Remember Ahmad Baba. Remember the 700,000 manuscripts. Remember Tulsa. Remember the Middle Passage. Remember redlining. Remember all of it. Because remembering is resistance, forgetting is submission. And we will never submit again. Remember your professors. When they told you Africans had no history, they lied. Your ancestors were professors, teaching mathematics, teaching astronomy, teaching medicine, teaching the world. Ahmad Baba, Muhammad Bagayogo, Mahmud Kati, Abdul Rahman al-Sadi. Say their names, remember their achievements, honor their legacy by living in the truth they preserved. Remember Sankore, the university with 25,000 students, the library with 700,000 manuscripts, the academic standards that surpassed Europe, the intellectual tradition that shaped civilizations. That was yours. That is yours. That heritage doesn't die because they burned buildings. It lives in you. Remember the 350,000 manuscripts that survived, hidden by African families for 400 years, smuggled to safety in 2012, protected through wars and invasions and terrorism. Those manuscripts are proof. Proof of everything I told you today. Proof that your ancestors were brilliant. Proof that African civilization was real and advanced and magnificent. Proof that destroys 500 years of lies. Those manuscripts exist. You can see them. You can read them. The proof is real, and remember this moment. Right now, the moment you learned the truth, the moment everything changed, the moment you went from not knowing to knowing, from believing the lies to seeing through them, from accepting oppression to demanding justice. This moment right here, remember it. Because this is the moment you became dangerous to the system. The moment you became a threat to the lies. The moment you joined the army of truth-tellers who are going to change everything. You are not the same person who started watching this video. You can't be, because you know now. And knowledge changes everything. You are transformed, awakened, empowered, armed with truth. And there is nothing more powerful than a person who knows the truth and refuses to stay silent. So go. Share this video. Tell this story. Teach your children. Wake up your community. Demand justice. Build wealth. Remember the theft. Honor your ancestors. Live in truth. That's your mission. That's your purpose. That's why you survived. That's why you're here. 500 years ago, they burned the libraries. Today, we rebuild them. 500 years ago, they silenced the scholars. Today, we become the scholars. 500 years ago, they stole the wealth. Today, we reclaim it. 500 years ago, they wrote the lies. Today, we tell the truth. This is our time. This is our moment. This is our divine appointment. The ancestors prayed for this. God ordained this, and we will not fail them. We will not stay silent. We will not accept the lies. We will not forgive the debt. We will rise. We will speak. We will demand. We will win, because we already survived the worst they could do. The Middle Passage, slavery, Jim Crow, mass incarceration. We survived it all, which means we can survive anything. Which means we will outlast this system, just like we outlasted all the others. Which means victory is inevitable. It's just a matter of time. And time is on our side. Because lies have a shelf life. But truth is eternal. They can suppress truth for decades or centuries. But eventually, it comes out. It always comes out. And when it does, everything built on lies collapses. That collapse is coming. You can feel it. The system is cracking. The narratives are failing. More people are waking up every day. The truth is spreading. And when enough people know, when enough people demand justice, the dam will break. and everything will change. You are part of that change. You are part of the awakening. You are part of the revolution. Not the violent kind, the truth kind, the most dangerous kind. Because you can defeat violence with more violence, but you can't defeat truth. Truth is invincible. Truth is unstoppable. Truth is inevitable. And you carry that truth now, in your mind, in your heart, in your spirit. You are a carrier of truth, a vessel of light in a world of darkness, a voice crying in the wilderness. Prepare the way. Make straight the path. Justice is coming. Truth is coming. Freedom is coming. Your ancestors are watching. They're cheering. They're celebrating. Because their prayers are being answered. Their sacrifices are being honored. Their story is being told. You are doing what they prayed someone would do. You are being who they prayed someone would be. You are the answer they waited for. And they are so proud of you. God is watching. He's smiling. Because His plan is unfolding. His justice is manifesting. His people are waking up. He preserved you for this. He protected the truth for this. He brought you to this moment for this. And He will give you everything you need to complete the mission. Strength, courage, wisdom, resources, community, everything. Because this is His will. And His will cannot be stopped. The world is watching. They don't know it yet, but they will. Because what you do next will ripple out. The people you tell will tell others. The children you teach will teach their children. The truth you speak will spread like wildfire. And eventually, the whole world will know what was done, what was stolen, what is owed, and justice will come. Walk in truth. Demand justice. You are free. This is the hidden history, and this is just the beginning. Peace.